Welcome in, everybody. Another 5 minutes with Sean, maybe 10, sit-down edition. I love that we're doing this so routinely. I think it's great to not only hear my voice once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month, but also hear the voice of people in our industry, especially like our guest today. This is someone that I've been trying to connect with for a while. We had some things come up for him earlier on. We couldn't connect. Here we are now, good and ready to rock and roll. I'm joined today by Trey Hudson, 23-year card vet. Trey, how are you, man?
I'm doing excellent, Sean. How are you, sir?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much. So, Trey, you were talking about the pre-show and just about how, you have a passion for the car biz. You love doing what you do. You've been in management. Just give you a little bit of background on what your current role is within the space.
So my current role right now is I'm actually part of the leadership team at Findlay Toyota here in Flagstaff, Arizona. And I have been in the car business for, it's been a few years now, like you said, 23 years, but been in a management role for the last about 18 or 19 years. And I really like working with sales teams. And really that's what my focus has become. And partly why I wanted to be a part of this discussion was seeing how the sales manager's role is kind of changing a little bit to more of a leadership role and how we can take advantage of that.
Okay, all right. So a little bit of the teaser here. Basically, this is what you want to talk about. Is you want to talk about the evolving sales manager role? Would that be fair to say?
That would absolutely be fair to say. I think when I first started, it was a desk manager. That sales manager was in the role to help the dealership sell cars, and that's kind of what the focus was. But I think as we start to move forward, it's really becoming more of a leadership role and how we can groom our sales staffs and not only ourselves, but our sales teams and help them grow. And so I think that role needs to shift, and that's what I wanted to have a discussion with you about today.
Woo! But I couldn't see. This is why I love doing this, Trey, because I would have never have thought of that discussion on my own because it's been a long time, man. I've been out of dealerships for now almost as long as I was in them. And it's just how my role in this world has molded itself. But I wouldn't think of this. So I love that we having people come on and you get to bring the topic because I could interview you. We could talk about your 23 years and do that. But this, man. Now I can see why you wanted to do this. This is awesome. All right. So let me jump off right away. You use the term desk manager, right?
Yep.
You remember why it was birthed that name, right? You would walk into those dealerships, you would see those towers of just mayhem. When you walk, you were like, oh my God. Even as a salesperson, my first week, I remember thinking, oh God, what goes on over there? It looks terrifying, all of that. How when you started with sales managers, when you started the business, how much was training a part of the discussion when you started? So I think we're talking 97. I'm 99. In 97, talk to me about training that you experienced then.
So, when I first started in the car business, it was really sink or swim. And of course, and this is 96, 97, and I didn't know any different. So I remember starting at the first dealership I worked at, and they hired me as a salesperson. And I remember it was kind of like a big deal because I got to interview with like 2 managers. Here I am, this, young kid, and I'm just like, oh, this is fancy, And I was under the impression that salespeople are rich. It's like every time you sell a car, you just made thousands of dollars, right?
It showers down. Yeah.
I had no clue there was like $75 minis and $125 minis. It's like, you mean tell my soul
for 6 hours of work for a guy
right.
negotiating by the dollar. Yeah. 6 hours of work. Someone says, "Good job. Here's 100. Have a nice day."
That's right. And I remember they hired, getting hired, and the training was, and I never forget it. It was like, here's the key machine. And then we'll show you how to get into the key machine. And then here are where the brochures are. Make sure you grab a brochure, familiarize yourself with the product. And then take the cars out for a test drive. And it was just like, and that was the training. And that was it. And it was just like, and then from that point on, I was released to basically practice on customers that were coming and spending anywhere from $15,000 to $60,000, and that was my training heading into it. So
And the best part about that is you got people spending, you know, what, $400 a sold acquisition for a vehicle, right? As far as advertising dollars go. And here you are taking $500 ups and you don't really even know the first thing about handling it up. Trey, it's amazing you stayed. Can I be honest with you? It really is amazing. It's not in the same boat, dude.
Yeah.
It was in Chicago. It was like, dude, train you to do what? Be better than us and take our jobs? Like, no, here's the basics. Get out of here. I mean, I fell for all the tricks about, you know, oh, Sean, that guy's looking for you. I go over there, something pulls up. I've been through it.
Right.
I've been through it, dude. So how did you deal with that when you were, so did you just learn on your own or did you go to try to find resources? How did you evolve in that way?
So here was anything back at that time, it was hard to find resources. You know, the internet was not really around yet. And if you had access to it, you were special at that point. I mean, there wasn't Google, there wasn't Yahoo, KBB wasn't even around yet. So we were out there really just trying to figure this on our own. But we would learn some. I was fortunate. I worked with some really good car veterans, and these guys just took me under their wings. I mean, they would, you know, if they were working a deal, they grabbed me. If I needed help, they would help me out. And I was just this little kid, but I sit in their office and I would just pick their brains. And they would never kick me out. They would explain it to me. And to me, those guys are still, like you asked me why I'm still in the business today. A lot of those veterans are not in the business. Like I keep up with them. I follow them on social media. But I feel like I'm the one that's still holding that torch. You know, I'm holding that torch and I'm like, I'm still hanging around, guys, you know. And but that was one of the ways. And then, you know, back in those days, we used to do the big hirings, the store would. And I remember they would bring on 15 people. Yeah, I see it in your face. You know,
the floor.
It was bring on 15, let's hope to stay, right? And it was just like, and then there was a part of me that just kept being like, you know what, I'm going to make it. I'm going to stay, you know? And then I got used to this routine because it used to really affect me. Like, why are they bringing on another 15 guys? Why are they bringing on, not guys, gals, you know? And it's
but what's wrong with me though? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with the staff we have? Why do we need to keep, you know, doing this whole thing? And yeah, it becomes a pressure cooker that's unnecessary, especially when no one's communicating it. Look, I don't think people need to ask me how to run their dealership as a salesperson. That is not what I said. All I simply said was, could you just we got enough meetings in the car business, okay? So couldn't you have just taken 5 minutes on Friday morning to let us know there's going to be a hiring event because we want to try and staff up and get more people? Couldn't you have done that? And it'd be fixed.
Yeah, it was just, and it was, but I survived it. You know, I stuck around, and then I had the fortune after that too. And this was kind of like a life-changing experience for me. Very early in my career, I ended up getting a job at Park Place Mercedes. Now, Park Place just recently, just to give you a little history on, they were a Highline luxury car. So we were selling Mercedes-Benz at the time. And so we had that kind of clientele. But the main thing was they just didn't hire me and then tell me like, okay, we're going to release you to now start selling $100,000 cars with a high clientele customer who's expecting a high level of customer service. What they basically said was, you know what, we're going to send you to training. And they invested $1,500, which at that time was a lot of money. This is probably 1999, early 2000. And they sent me to Joe Verdi. And I had the opportunity to go to Joe Verdi training. And I remember by the time I was done with Joe Verdi training, I was like, so this is what the car business is about. And I had been at the previous dealership for 2 years. This new dealership sent me within 3 months to go to Joe Verdi training. The next month out of Joe Verdi training, I was sales rep of the month. You know, in those early days, I think I made something like $11,500. And as a 20-year-old kid, I'm like, this is a huge amount of money. I'm like,
I'm looking $1 million.
Like a professional now. And all it took was me to go to this training class. So this is what a meet and greet is. This is what prospecting is. This is what a proper demonstration, fact finding. And so it was just like when I came back from that class, the way I looked at the car business changed. I focused more on customer service, on my steps of the sale, and I stuck with it.
Dude. Thank goodness for Mercedes-Benz is all I got to say. And I say that because that sort of training is what should be, it should be the benchmark. It shouldn't even be the hallmark of our industry. It should be the benchmark. It should be that everyone gets this. We work with a huge group here in Madison, Wisconsin, Zimmer Automotive, some of the best car people I've ever met in my life. They're unbelievable. when you get hired, you got to go through training at all these different steps and levels, both in group settings and individual settings at your store setting,
Right.
that you can't just be released to the wild. We have a gigantic budgets. We spend a lot of money driving traffic and people to our stores. We have to make sure that not only can you handle them, but you can live up to the brand, right?
Correct.
You can live up to who we believe that you are, man. So with today, right? Here you are today in your role. We're talking about your evolution.
Correct.
So basically then it was 95% learn on your own, 5% training. In your evolution, how do you now see that percentage for your own salespeople that you bring under your wing? What is your breakdown of training versus real life? Because they have to have real life at some level. You can't always be in a bubble. But what does that percentage and breakdown look for you now?
So when we move that over and and continue this conversation, when I was first hired as a sales manager years ago, it was a desk manager position. Maybe it was quoted as a sales manager position, but it was really a desk manager position. Well, I was really in charge of desking car deals, making sure the salesperson was following the steps and making sure that we were hitting our quotas. And that became the focus. And that's all I really focused on. I didn't understand at that time proper training in the sense that I should be investing in my sales team and that I should be properly training them so that we all as a team can become successful. And so what I had to practice on, and I won't try to keep this short, was a few years ago, the owner at one of the owners of my current store came up to me, and I was in a sales manager role. I actually was a general sales manager. And he says, Trey, you know what? As the store goes is how you go. And at that time when he shared that with me, I was kind of like, I almost thought it was an insult. Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm always high energy, high level. Like, I'm always positive. And it was funny because when you think about your perception is different than how other people perceived you. And how he was perceiving me is that when you're in a good mood and we're selling cars and we're rocking and rolling, oh, you're investing in the sales team, you're excited, everybody's in a good mood. But when the numbers dip or you feel a little bit of pressure, then all of a sudden your mood changes, you're in a bad mood, and the salespeople feel that. And so even now, and moving forward to the question that you asked me, like, how do I handle the training? One of the things that I focus on now is trying to be consistent. And it's not the easiest thing to do because I'm still a human. We still have those emotions, but I generally am like a high energy guy at the store. I like to run around making jokes, like the high five, like to congratulate people. But the problem with sometimes if you have too high of highs is that when you have those lows, they are extremely low and people notice them. And then all of a sudden people can see on you and they feel like he must be in a bad mood. And so I didn't want to be Jekyll and Hyde anymore. I wanted my sales team to realize that I could be a lot more consistent and they wouldn't come in one day and see, oh, happy-go-lucky Trey, and then come in the next day and I'm in a bad mood. I'm ready to fire everybody. And so, and that makes sense, right? But it was just like, that's how I was trained and that's how I knew it to be. And I thought, as long as I hit the numbers, none of that stuff really mattered. And it absolutely matters.
Trey, it was just like last week's show I did on team, right? That's what I was talking about on the show last Monday was the team. And I didn't really get it like you, man. We're raised in the same part of the car business, okay? It was just, this is how it was ingrained in my brain, dude. So when you start talking about being the highs and the lows, that's the same role that I play in my life, both at work and in my family's role, or the way people see me in private. So if I ever do show to an event where maybe I just want to just take a little time to be quiet, sit in the corner, something's wrong, something's broken, what secret is he hiding? And it's just like, damn, it'd be nice to be able to get that. But now, much like maybe you, I'm just learning how to try and stay like right here. I'm trying not to do this. If someone has great news, I'm like, all right, that's wonderful. As opposed to like, oh yeah, celebrating, lighting off fireworks and shit. And then when it's low, it's like, well, okay, let's discuss that, as opposed to just move past it or whatever. Yep. So how did you make this evolution for yourself, man, in this role? Was obviously you had some words of wisdom. Sure, those are helpful, but talk me through actually how you got to this sort of, I don't know, let's call it the automotive enlightened mind that you had. Well, what does that look like? Tell me about the process.
So it was soul searching. But there was a couple, in your career, you're going to have these, you're going to have these high highs, just, you hit the numbers, you get promoted, you get elevated. And then you're going to have them where those numbers start to dip. And I remembered I was sitting in a sales meeting, and we were having our normal sales conversation about, and it was with the leadership team. And it was, how can we grow our business? And of course, we threw out the normals. We threw out advertising. You know what, boss? We need to spend more money on advertising, right? Like, that's the go-to. And I was one of the first people to do it. Like I said, I'm here. I talk about the things that I've elevated from too. And then the second thing was, you know, it wasn't advertising, it was the inventory, right? It's like, oh, we need more cars. If we have more Forerunners, if we have more Tacomas, we sell more cars. And all these things that we were mentioning were things that required the dealership to spend money. And then we had an outside, and we're talking about training, but we had an outside gentleman come in. He was sharing more leadership training with us. And he says, you know what, guys, you don't need all that stuff. What you really need is to focus on what you have already and make the people around you better. And for whatever reason, when he said that, just something in me just snapped. And I said, for a lot of my career, I was thinking it was all these outside factors that were really beyond my control that I thought that were going to develop were going to help if I was going to be successful or not. And I had that aha moment, as you call it, when I realized, no, if you bring that positive energy, you bring that training to your sales staff and to the people around you, that's how a store gets better. But if you look at sports, that's how teams get better. Yes. And I was just like,
dude, it's vertical integration, right? I know it's an overused term, but if you look at it that way, I'm a huge baseball fan. I'm a Chicago White Sox fan, and it's a team that I've watched go from the doldrums after winning a World Series, then just hitting absolute rock bottom and being the laughing stock, but then taking stock in what they did have and creating a farm system that from top to bottom does the same thing, works the same way. So when they get to the big game, it doesn't look any different. It's, yes, things are faster, everything's quicker, but we have the same approach to the plate, the same approach to the field, the same approach to this. And then it allows you to promote from within, which again, from an expenditure standpoint is just, you know, crazy. And this year they've got hit with injuries where most teams have to trade away the farm and give everything up. They've been promoting the farm because the farm's ready or ready enough where no one's going to notice. And it's so cool to look at it from a business perspective for me, because it's like, you were the laughing stock. You were terrible. And now you're like, now the Yankees want to model themselves after you? Like, that's hilarious, first of all. But from a system standpoint, that's how quickly things can change, Trey, right? And so, Trey, from your role, do you think a lot of pride when your salespeople are promoted, whether it be in your store or within your group, or maybe even go on to be sales managers elsewhere? Does that give you pride, man?
It does. And, you know, and it's funny you should say that, because in asking that question, it was like, you know, what used to give me pride was setting records. But that was individual. So it was like store records. It was like, you know, bringing home all the gross and high-fiving but, you know, at the end of the day, and this is another one of those aha moments, that those numbers are going to get beaten eventually, or they're going to be forgotten because the store is going to turn around and people are going to move out and people are going to move in. But those relationships that you build are so much more important than any of those records that you hope to accomplish. So you build the team, and obviously you'll start breaking the records, but that feeling of watching someone that worked for you or worked with you get promoted from within is just huge. We recently just had a sales rep for us get promoted to the finance department. And I think we all celebrated more for them than they did for themselves, because we were all happy to see that happen, because it's life-changing for them. I mean, very much life-changing, and it was just exciting to see. So I think myself, you know, individuals I work with, we take a lot of pride in watching our teammates grow.
So I'd like to ask you a question. Do you think that's how people felt when we started in the late 90s when someone would get promoted?
Absolutely not. I mean, and I think they were worried. I mean, I think we always had the issue of, you know, it was always like, I don't know if I want to hire this guy because I'm worried that he's going to, what is this guy's good? And he takes my spot. And maybe people hear that now and they think that, because you see the way things are now and things are a lot different. But when we started, that was like the norm. I mean, it was almost like, I don't want to give these people too many tools because I don't want them to get really good and I don't want to be replaceable. So let me give them just enough that they can get by, and I can definitely stay safe in my position. So I think that that's true.
That's a huge evolution part of it. But like you said earlier, there were those people along the way that weren't that. There were those people that were looking out for you. They were your stewards of the business to move you forward. I have one now, a buddy of mine. His name's Justin Delgado. He's on LinkedIn. Check him out. He's now an owner of his own store. After all these years, the routes he's taken, the things he's done, he has his own store. And we just reconnected recently, and apparently he'd been watching my journey. I had no idea. Him, etc. And we had crossed paths one time under my corporate job, but it was really brief. And now to watch people and to see that he's happy for me, I'm happy for him. But I just don't feel like as an industry, we still don't do enough of it. It's certainly not what it was in 97, but I still feel like there's this animosity of success that exists within our industry that seems, I think it's mainly guys. I'll be honest with you. I don't see women doing that. I see women celebrating each other on a regular basis. I don't see that with us, Trey. How do we continue to get better at that? Because clearly you have evolved into someone who can be that, right? And wants to see people do better. How can we see more of sales managers do it?
I think that's, I think things are changing. I think a lot are. I think a lot more are today than aren't. And I think a lot of it too is get in with a good group. I mean, if you get in with a good auto group and it doesn't have to, and I know we're talking sales, but I mean, this could be any company. But if you get in with the right company that supports you and promotes from within and actually cares about you as an employee, I think that's a good place to start. Now, I know not all companies are going to operate that way. Some are still going to have that old school mentality. But I think if anybody is looking to get into this business and they're interviewing, they should definitely be asking these questions when they're interviewing. Like, are your people promoted from within? Like, what is your days on, days off schedule? And what is the management team like? Like, what can I expect, when I work here? And I think those are realistic questions that they should be able to ask, and we should have real answers for them.
And I think as an industry, I've been on this kick for a while, and I'm working on a whole podcast for it because it frustrates me that much. We're always talking about how to attract new talent, right? Yeah. How do we do it? How do we do it? Where do we go? Where do we go? Many moons ago, I was introduced to the 4-day work week, okay, in automotive. I know it was crazy. But Trey, it changed people's lives. And it wasn't something that, if you gave people, I did it in 2005, 2006. I gave my guys a chance. I said, all right, sales spit for the weekend. Friday, Monday off, or $300 a car. More than half the staff picked Friday, Monday. Right. And it wasn't even, they didn't sit there and think about it. They were like, nope, I'm good. If I win, I want that. It was like, okay. And that's what you started granting. And you see that, man, because you brought it up. You should be asking about the days on, days off.
Right.
We can attract premier talent across the country. Forget other people from other dealerships. I'm just talking premier sales talent with a 4-day work week. Done. Right. And it makes coverage easier because it's 4/10s. The dealership should only be open 10 freaking hours a day anyways. You don't need to be open 14 hours a day to sell cars. Right. But so Trey, I'm getting off tangent. Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. You're a sales manager today. You've seen the evolution of, God, I hate the word, digital retail.
Yep, right.
But you see the evolution of it. Talk to me about how that plays into your role of, as you put it, desk manager versus leadership manager now. Where do those two kind of cross paths for you? So
when you mean digital retail, are you thinking like the online shopper, or are you thinking of,
Trey, I'm as interested as you are that you don't know, right? Because that's what pisses me off about the term in general, is people throw it around and they assume everyone knows what it means.
Right.
It's aggravating. And you're a sales manager in a big Toyota store, and you and I still have to clarify what it means. Yeah, Trey, it means that as well, I guess is how I feel about it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm talking about the online experience, someone penciling their own deal, Trey, and then coming to pick the car up at your dealership. Does this eliminate your role? Do you take part in the digital retail experience? Speak to me about that relationship.
So perfect. So here's the cool thing on our level and what we're watching is we're seeing customers start the process digitally online. Mm-hmm. So they research the car. There's software where the customer can kind of look at their payments, say maybe can get an evaluation for their trade-in. But what we're realizing that is still the majority of the customers still want to come in and they want to touch the car, they want to sit in the seat, they want to test drive the car, and they want to make sure that the vehicle meets their needs. I don't think we're at the point right now where customers are working a deal from A to Z and just showing up at the dealership to pick up their car. Now, we may be there a few years from now. I don't know. But currently, the way things are, we're initiating the contact online. Customers submitting a web lead. The staff is following up with them. Sometimes we'll sell the car online and the customer will come up and pick the vehicle up. But most customers want to look at the car, make sure it's right. Because we have a lot of people that show up, they look at the vehicle and they're like, oh no, right? They're like, it's the wrong color, or you know what, these seats aren't comfortable, or you know what, it doesn't have the ride I thought it would have. And so we're having to put that customer on another car. So we're still, even though it's this digital retailing era, we're still we're still kind of following our old basics of the selling steps that we normally have when the customer walks in the dealership.
Well, let me ask you this. Where do you stand on the ability to what I refer to, forget digital retail, because I don't think anyone wants to buy a car end to end. I've had conversations with owners across the country the last 10 days who are screaming from the rooftops they want this shit off their websites because they don't believe in it. They don't think it works. They don't care. And we have data to support it, but no one's listening. Fine. It's fine. We'll get there. But how do you deal with, hey, Trey, I'd like to get a trade evaluation. I like to do everything over the phone before I come in. I want everything done. What's your response, Trey, as a sales manager to that inquiry?
I'm providing the customer with the information they ask for. Here's the thing. So I've been in the car business a long time. I walk the digital retail. I mean, there's parts of it I enjoy. There's parts that actually has made my job easier, to be honest with you. I'm not afraid of Kelley Blue Book anymore because Kelley Blue Book actually helps me close deals more than it helps me lose deals. The reason being is it's a good starting place. You know, when I first started in the car business, there was no Kelley. Customers wanted payoff for every trade. And only people that have been in the business, like Sean, you're laughing right now, only people that have been in the business long enough know that. Like they know that customer owes came in with whatever.
That's what their car's worth, Trey. That's what it's worth. I don't understand what you don't understand, but the banks. So yeah, car's worth $15,000, and all of a sudden, a used car manager pulls out his fucking Costanza book and he goes,
"This little black book." Right.
Car's worth about $8,600. We go, what the fuck?
and he's hitting the 10 key, you know.
And then we took the $6,000 and we buried it in an 84-month term, and we moved on with our lives. But still.
So it was just like so.
Oh yeah.
It gives
a stack of magazines, Trey. That's how you know they were legit. Stack of magazines, a car running on fumes that was just washed. We're making a car deal today. This is happening right now.
So it is our goal to, in a normal internet setting or BDC setting, we're appointment setting. I mean, now I know things are a little bit different with inventory. It may be a little bit challenging for me to try to set an appointment on a 4Runner and I have 0 4Runners on the lot. But what we are doing, and we started doing this a while ago, even when we had inventory, if the customer wants to work the deal over the phone, we will do that. Or online, over the phone. If they want trade value, they want monthly payments, credit, whatever we can do to sell the car before the customer arrives, we will do that. And the reason being is I'm of the mindset, if I don't necessarily give the customer what they ask for, they're going to go find it from somebody who will. And so we provide that information to them, and hopefully the customer shows up, we get the deal. But like I said, I'm on the mindset, provide them with what they ask for.
Talk to me about, is that from the top down? Does the ownership, I guess if they don't get involved, does the general manager, do the people who are above you, this is their belief as well, and they hammer that home, so every sales manager agrees, every finance guy, everyone's on, as best they can with a dealership, be on the same page? Yeah,
so, as best they can, there's still some, some people, you still have different minds, so you're still gonna have some people that are gonna be old school, and they're gonna be like, you know what, just hammer the appointment, get the customer in, we'll look at the trade when they get here. But me overseeing more of that role, it's kind of like, let me grow with the customer. And so it's like, so a lot of us are on the same page of, and what our owner asks of us is to provide a high level of customer service. And if this is what helps us provide that high level of customer service, I live in a small town. I don't know how it is in a metro. They may see things a little bit different, but Flagstaff, Arizona, I think our population is 60, 70,000. But we want to make sure that we're taking care of our in-town customers. So it's important for us to do that.
And see, I love the simplicity of that statement, right? Just provide the highest level of customer service. Before I was a car guy, I was a suit guy, and I worked for the Men's Warehouse. No one does training, or did training, it's not that way anymore, but did train like the Men's Warehouse. You flew out to California, you went through suits, the guy you saw in the commercials was the guy you talked to who sat with you and explained to you the steps of the sale, told you why it's important, told you you don't just hand things over counters, you walk around counters, you don't point, you escort, those sorts of things. Dude, I got to tell you, anytime in my life that I enjoy something has nothing to do with the meals that I've enjoyed had nothing to do with the food.
Right.
It was the people involved in getting this transaction to where it was.
Correct.
Such a simple goal. I hope this is one of our most watched episodes ever. And I'll tell you, it's because people need to hear the evolution of a man like yourself. See, people always say to me, oh, Sean, it's easy. You haven't been in a dealership in 10 years. It's easy for you to say evolution. Okay, fine. I get that. Criticism's fine. Now what? Trey's been in a dealership this whole time. Now what? He's saying the exact same thing. Nobody wants to buy a car online because no one gives a shit. So take your tech companies and move on. And people who want to get things done ahead of time, let's do it. Let's give them the opportunity to do it. Trey, let me ask you though, and you can answer if you'd like or not, but is the mindset of give them what they want, is it because of our recent experiences as a culture and community, or is this something that's been going on well before pandemic hit our front doors?
No, I think my DNA is I want to sell a car. That's just my DNA. And I'm going to sell a car however I can sell the car, So it's like if the customer wants it this way and it's within reason, then I'm going to try to make it happen. Because as we say, if I have to go out and take a turn or I'm talking to a customer, one of the first things I like to say is, I am honestly interested in selling you this car, but I'm more interested in selling you your second car, your third car, your fourth car, because that's what's really important to me. Because that second car, that third car, that fourth car are some of the more easier transactions just because the customer is now comfortable with us. So pre-pandemic or after pandemic, I think we've I kind of thought that with the pandemic that we would deliver more cars off the lot. I thought maybe customers are going to slide into that mode of feeling like, you know what, we want to take delivery at our home. We want to take delivery at our work. We won't want to come into the dealership. And I just didn't see it happen. I didn't see it happen. And I thought it was, but it didn't happen that way. And what happened was we did a couple of off-site deliveries, a small handful, but most customers, even during the pandemic, wanted to come into the store and pick out their vehicle. So yeah, I think we've had this philosophy before and we've had it after.
Trey, when you were growing up in the business, you just made mention of something about your DNA, your sales DNA. And I was just mentioning this to someone the other day on a post that I've never understood the friction between desks and customers. I've never gotten it. My whole career as a salesperson, I always thought, all right, if this is what this guy wants, and you're telling me it works, but you just want to make more, and this guy's going to spend 3 hours, he's going to fry us on things that matter to you later, then why are we doing this right now? Is that something that you had always had in your mind when you were growing up, as you started to realize this business, saying to yourself, it could be easier? Was that part of your mindset as well?
Yeah. I remember, when I first, somewhere around starting, I told you about Joe Verdi training, but Grant Cardone was big then too. So it was like two trainers. It was Grant Cardone, it was Joe Verdi. And Grant Cardone, I was listening to his tapes in the car, his tapes or CDs. Like that's how I was getting training. I meant to tell you that earlier. But he came out with this Foursquare, and this Foursquare was, it was printed out. It wasn't like a handwritten Sharpie on paper. And I thought when I sold cars, I was always thinking like, why can't we have something like that? Like, why can't we have something that's a little bit clearer, so when the customer reads those numbers, it's not as confusing as the Foursquare that I had before. And so it was funny seeing us go to our CRM tools now. And a lot of times most dealers are printing these out this way. But I thought there was an easier way to sell a car, because when I started in the business, and I tell my sales staff this now, we would probably go back, what's the average? 10 times between the desk and the customer? 10 might have been low. We may have gone back longer than that. Like, it was just.
Trey, all right. How about deposits, Trey? When's the last time a salesperson got up from his desk and brought you a deposit along with an offer?
That's right. It's been so long, I forgot that was at the 3 C's, right? It was a cash commitment credit app, right? And that was one of them. Yeah, it's been so long I don't even remember.
My favorite, my craziest piece of commitment was a 6-year-old. Okay, the guy was like, "Look, walk the kid to the desk," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I'm serious. Walk the kid to the desk. Tell him you can put him in the bag, wash cars. Just take the kid to the desk." I mean, I had people give me shoes, a Michael Jordan once. I had a watch. I mean, the craziest shit. But it always did prove, right? It always did prove the desire to do business. It did.
Yeah, I mean, I tell my sales staff now, I'm like, I was like a ping pong ball. Like I go, the customer would beat me up. They would ask for all the money off. And then I'm going to my sales manager, and then my sales manager, what are you thinking? We can't do that. And then I just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And eventually I would sell a car. But even then I was just thinking like, there's got to be an easier way to sell a car. There's got to be. And so
there's no appreciation for that, though. There's Trey, young salespeople today. I don't want to sound big here, but you got no appreciation for the way. And I'll be honest with you, I think more people in general should be a little bit more positive about how much the car business has evolved. I think we still get a bad rap and a bunch of bullshit about how it is that we do business. And frankly, as you and I sit here and joke, here we are 20 plus years later, and it is completely different. For the majority of it all. Yes, there's bad seeds in everything.
Anything.
It don't matter.
But for someone to tell me that the car business hasn't evolved, it's just like someone that's probably either reading some articles or never been in a car dealership, because a lot of stores have evolved. I can't speak for everybody, but there's a lot of stores that have evolved, and they're moving forward with these just new ways of taking care of customers, taking care of employees. And it looks nothing how it looked when I started. However, I will say this, and I worked with a good group of guys when I first started, but I will say this, it made me so much tougher, because you can't replace that. I don't know how you want to look at it, how people see things today, but to work a car deal the way we had to work a car deal, to go through what we had to go through sometimes with the desk or with other salespeople, like you said, I was able to stick around because I was just so battle tested. I mean, I just been through, to go through that and come out and still be in the business, it was a great learning experience for me. And to be honest, I wouldn't change what I went through when I first started the car business for anything. I still learned so much in those times, and hanging out with those car guys, that I never forget that.
Never. I mean, you were a family, man. Those salesmen, we'd all hang out together afterward. You'd spend 12 hours with guys and you'd go out with them afterwards, and I was younger, man. I got in the car business. I was 18 years old. Day I turned 18, I got in. I tried to get in, I was 17. I couldn't in the state of Illinois. So I waited until I was 18, got in. These guys were in their 20s. They were already partying. I'm going to parties with them. I'm going to bars with them. I'm going about their life. I'm seeing at that time, right, how glamorous things could really be. Only thing I wish is that I wish people would have been a little bit more clear about mental health, being able to just talk about, because, you got crazy at some points where you're just like a bad month, or, even a huge month. I think you got to be able to sort of, if you're not an athlete, the car business is one of the fastest places to get rich, to have money that you've never seen before.
Right.
And I just don't think, I think as a sales manager today, do you deal a lot in mental health, man? I mean, I'm not asking you to be a therapist for people, but is that part of the role for you? And, we're making a big push here on my show and hopefully throughout the industry to do more of it. But you talk about the evolution of your role. Does that come up more and more, or is it sort of case by case?
It does, because it used to be, and we had a trainer come in. Like I said, our group's been great. They brought outside help into us, and brought people in to kind of enlighten us on certain things. But one was, and coming up the way I came up with was, you would give the negative feedback, right? So if X salesperson wasn't performing well, wasn't, hitting the numbers, was acting terrible with the customer, you would just hammer whoever that person was. What are you thinking? We can't be doing this. And then with no repercussion for how that person would feel. Right. And no repercussion for, if I'm the manager, what is that representation of me? It was never that. Like, I never felt that. I was like, it's not me, it's them.
You were saluted. You were saluted by your peers. And typically the guy who sat above you was like, yeah, that's the way you take that guy to the woodshed. That's the way you handle this business. And you're like, yeah, exactly. And then you walk away and you think to yourself, is that right? I don't know. This guy looks pretty screwed up right now. And I think I went backwards on this deal. That doesn't make sense. But really quickly, you're already talking about something that strikes me, which is we talk about the negative and we give no solution to how to improve the negative. It's just be better. When I was younger playing baseball, people always told me I could make the show if I could just hit for power.
Mm-hmm.
No one ever took time to show me how to hit for power or what to increase in my body or my swing rate or any part of things that could have benefited me. All they kept saying was, just don't hit for enough power. It's like, well, fuck, man, how do I hit for more power? Trey, do you give this to salespeople now, man? Do you give them that sort of avenue and ability to open up and have that conversation with you?
We do now. And the reason, so when we say the negative feedback, and it's not necessarily negative, but it's just things we need to work on. But then we always leave the meeting with the positive feedback. And so, and I look for the same because in my career, I've gone through I've had meetings before with my upper management, and I've left going, dang, I just got beat down, but I was no pickup. There was no pickup, right? And so you remember how you feel, and you're asking about mental health, and that's some of the things that affect that. So confidence level and those kind of things. So we make sure that if we got we do it in a professional way when we give that feedback. And then one of the things that we were taught, they asked the sales, person when we're wrapping up the conversation is, what can I do for you? And I thought that was powerful. Like, it's just like these simple things. You're like, you hear them and you're just like, why can I thought of that? But it's just like, what can I do for you? When you're leaving the conversation, the salesperson's like, really? Like, what, like, and then they tell you, they may say, well, can you make sure, help me with this? Can you help me with that? And you're like, absolutely. Because now you know what it takes to help them get better. And so that's one of the things that we do, but our goal is to make sure that we leave it on a positive note and that it's not something that's constant. I feel no employee needs to get beat down every single day or get feedback every single day if it's negative. It's pick and choose how you.
I think it's both. I don't think people need to be told they're great every day, and I don't think they need to be told they're terrible every day. I think some days can just be days, and and it's okay. And I gotta tell you something. Because I know I've taken up a lot of your time, so I'm going to try and wrap it up. But you're an unbelievable conversation I can keep. I wouldn't even know what time it was if I didn't look down. But my thing is like, it's not cool, right, to have those conversations as guys with other guys. It's not cool to tell someone, hey, man, I'm feeling pretty off today. I used to have the worst attitude, Trey, as a sales manager and a GM. People come to my office, Sean, my kid. I said, oh, I'm going to stop you there. You're talking about shit that does not have to do with this dealership. If it's a problem, get out and leave the dealership. Otherwise, get back to work. And it goes back to, like you said, though, that's how I was raised. I didn't know any better until I had an owner who wasn't from the car business, just happened to be wealthy and diversified into. And he said, hey, you cannot talk to people that way. Now, he would talk to you that way, but he's making it very clear that you certainly were not going to talk to other people that way.
Right.
So, do as I say, not as I do, whatever, I can move past it. But the point was well received because it was like, yeah, all right, because I don't have kids. Like, I don't have all the problems people have, and so I just feel like I don't want to hear them. That's so wrong because everyone needs an ear to bend regardless. You can always have some sort of, empathy, right? Empathy or sympathy. You can have it no matter what if you just listen to people. Trey, tell me, lastly, how have you become a better listener? Because you had to have done that in order to do what you're doing now. How have you evolved that skill?
That's a good question. And thinking of the answer, but I think some of it has to do with, I remember I was in a sales, I'm thinking this, but I was in a sales meeting. And this is probably about 10 years ago. And I was in there and I was old school. I was hammering. I was just telling my sales team about how much they need to get better and how it was all them and it was nothing on me. And I remember I was losing them. And eventually, and finally, I was just like, I don't know what's going on. So I closed the meeting. And I remember 3 or 4 of the sales members stayed behind. And I was just like, hey, guys, what's going on? And they gave me the business. And they dressed me down. And it was just like, and I had a moment where I was just like, whoa, like, I didn't know how I was acting. I didn't know that I wasn't listening. I had no clue how I was affecting my team. And so I remember leaving out of that meeting and going, I need to make some changes. I need to make some adjustments if I want to continue to be a manager. And I started listening to videos. I started listening to self-help tapes just to make myself better. But I remember hearing one a long time ago, and it was from Gary Vee. And regardless how you feel about Gary Vee, he has a lot of stuff out there, but he always talks about empathy. And I love it when he goes and he talks about empathy, because it's always about put yourself in someone else's shoes. And so now every time when I had that aha moment, or that wow moment, I was thinking, remember how I was when you were talked to like by your sales manager? Remember how you felt then, and remember how it affected your performance? And it was like, you've become him. And then I was just like, this empathy, I was like, what is it? How can I practice it? I started reading about being a servant leader. I started reading about all this stuff and started trying to practice it, and started realizing that I needed to grow as a leader if I wanted to be successful. And I wanted to not only continue to stay in the car business, but move up in the car business. So that's how I learned how to practice being a better listener, was just putting myself in other people's shoes, and then realizing about that whole how to practice empathy and what it really means.
Trey, geez, man. I can listen to you talk to me about this all day long, dude. This is incredible. I think a lot of people need to understand that it doesn't happen overnight. And you have to truly want to work at it. I think my timing was similar to yours, but mine was at the back half of my time in the dealership. So my last 2 years, I had figured that out. I had wasted years previous without it. And then I took that into my own life and into a consulting role, and then onto my own company. And it serves us well to be able to listen to other people. Because I got to tell you something. If I was in the wrong mood and those three guys would have dressed me down, I'd have fired them right where they were standing if I was in the wrong mood, right? If I didn't allow myself. So congratulations to you for not letting that happen, because not many people in leadership roles today, or really ever, can handle that of their subordinates telling them the score. So again, kudos to you. I give kudos to you for the last 50 minutes, because you're an incredible automotive man. And I just am so grateful that we finally connected and that you've been on the show, man. The last piece of advice that you would give to sales managers as we talk about the evolution of the sales manager role would be what?
There's probably a lot, but if I'm using my own personal input, and it's funny what you said earlier about, I think I've been in sales manager role now for probably about 18 or 19 years. I would have to agree with what you said earlier, son. Probably the first 11, 12, I thought I was probably a rock star. But when I look back on, wasn't the best. I was a good desk guy, but I wasn't a really good manager. I wasn't a really good leader. And so if you ask me what the feedback that I would give up and coming sales manager now, I would say, hey, obviously the numbers are important. You're going to work on, desking car deals, but I'm going to say, learn to be a better leader. And I would, and just not say that, but I would also add to it. One of the things that helped me was I learned how to not ask my sales staff to do things that I wouldn't do myself. And earlier in my career, and I told you about probably those first 10 years, I was out there barking orders because I thought that's what sales managers do. So I was telling them, do this, do that, call here, call there. And then they were just like, but was I willing to do that? It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, me? And so it was just like, but as I got older and progressed in the business and matured, I started to see that it's easier to get your sales team to do things if they know that you're willing to do it. Now, I'm not saying that you don't necessarily have to do every single task, but if you can do it and they can see you, at least show them how to do it if they're struggling, you're going to earn so many kudos and so many points with their sales team that it's just going to pay in dividends over their career. I mean, not to talk too long, but some of the best phone calls I can get are people that used to work for me, and they've moved on from the car business, so they're doing something different, but they're checking in on me and tell me how they're doing, and they're just like, hey, I'm in this sales, career, or things are going great for me, or the family's growing. And it's just like, that's what it's about. It's more at the end of the day than how many cars you sold. It's like, hey, how's life going? Where are you at? And, how can I help you along the way? So that's
funny. I've always said to people that I've never sold a car in my life. I've sold a person what it is they needed to build a relationship with that individual. I don't know shit about cars. If it wasn't for Maroni stickers, I could have never sold new cars because product knowledge isn't something that ever occurred to me. it didn't matter. I sold
Right.
whatever was in front of me, whatever I had to sell. That's what we're selling. And if you're interested, then I'm selling. And it wasn't really selling.
Right.
I never did that. I was always show this. Is that, yeah, all right, fits your budget. Let's talk about your life. Let's identify with one another and make it easier. I love what you're saying. Sales managers, I hope you're listening. Those of you who watch the show, and look, I know there's plenty of you that watch. I get it. I hear it all the time. So if you're listening, the numbers are going to be there. After you understand how the numbers work, structuring car deals, that's all going to be easy. It really is. Where the work will happen for you is what Trey's talking about. Where we're talking about digging in, understanding the human experience, working with our people to be better humans, which will in fact make them better salespeople, has to do with more between the ears than anything they could write down or take notes on about a vehicle or a description of a walk around. It's you have to identify them, what's important to them. Trey,
right.
You have been tremendous, dude. Really, bravo to you and all that you've done, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on our show here, and I hope to talk again in the future for sure.
Yeah, I would like to do this again. Sean, thanks so much for the invitation. Pleasure being on the show, and keep that good content coming.
We'll do it, Trey. Thanks a lot.
All right, have
Everybody,
a good one.
as you know, you can find Trey on LinkedIn. You can find myself on LinkedIn. Next week on the show, we're going to keep guests in the seats. We're going to try and keep with that campaign. And I don't think you're going to want to miss it. It's going to be a new spin on Mental Health Monday. And I'm going out to the East Coast to do it. Not literally, guys. Just do. Just like my boy Trey is in Flagstaff. We're going to be going out to the East Coast next week. Thank you guys so much. Everybody, have a great week. Man, Trey, top notch, bud. You're just, like I told you, it don't make no sense, but those are the notes, brother.
Oh, thank you.
Those are the notes. It's 2 pages full. It's circled what's important. I'm not even sure we can keep it all together, but I will say this, man. The show will go live on Monday for you.
Okay.
Somewhere between 8 and 9 a.m. Central. So that's like 6 and 8 for you.
Okay.
Maybe that 5 and 8. So we'll do that. I'll tag you as I do. I'll tag you tomorrow on the Outside Friday.
Right.
If you happen to find yourself outside, then do yourself a video, tag the upcoming show. Great. I'm saying it to people because I realize that I haven't said to you that you're free to promote the show. And so please do. No one ever does. And I don't know if that's they assume because I'm big enough that I don't need anyone with promotion. Again, it's not about promotion. I don't care. But I've never told people to do it. So whatever you want to do with the content once it goes live is yours to have. If you want the copy to download it, cut up things for your own cut away content away.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Well, man, again, thank you so much. And just please keep doing what you're doing. You sound like you work for a wonderful group of people. I believe I've met a few of them in stores in Vegas, right?
Yeah, we have big stores in Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was speaking at the Rockstar Automotive event there a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And I believe I met a couple sales managers from the stores there in Vegas.
Yeah, it is a good group to work for, and I think that's why I've been around the last 6 or 7 years. It's just they keep growing. They just don't let us get stagnant, so that's good.
That's awesome, man. It's awesome. Well, if I can ever do anything for you, help you out, man, all you got to do is call, let me know, send me a text. I'm there for you. Otherwise, keep doing great things, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Have a good one, Sean.
Thanks, man. We'll talk to you. Bye-bye.
All right.